Welcome back to the Family's Garage. The Willys is back. Well, she's kind of disassembled at the moment. There's the motor. There's the suspension. Last time you saw this car, we had just revamped it and it looked like this. Here's our 1928 Willys. 350 small block, turbo 350 trans, 10-bolt rear end. Just a cool old custom from back in the 80s. Owner took her, drove her around a bit, noticed some shortcomings, so we're going to throw in a bunch of new parts. What are we waiting on? The transmission. So we're 5 weeks into waiting for our turbo 350 to come back from the transmission shop. I have been working on other projects. If you're following along with the tunnel ram install on the Z28. But how did we get here? Over here on display is everything that's going in the Willys. The 1928 Willys Knight is coming back for some upgrades. There's a full March serpentine system with reverse water pump, serpentine belt, chrome alternator, chrome air compressor. This is going to be really cool. But the highlight is the full Fat Man Fabrications modern front suspension. So I have it mocked up here. Oh, but by the way, you see these black lines across the camera? You see that? That's these new shop lights that I got. So unbeknownst to me, LEDs flash. And when you start filming in 30 frames per second, you can see it. So these lights are not going to work for the long term. However, they're hanging on the ceiling right now, so I apologize. So back to the Fat Man's front end. Non-power rack and pinion. They recommended not having power steering with such a light vehicle. You got tubular upper and lower A-arms. You got a full custom cross member that welds into the frame. Disc brakes, GM calipers. Shocks and springs are right here. So that's going to be an amazing addition to that car. Just in time.
For what?
I need help.
Okay. What you need help with?
I gotta pull this hood off without damaging it, so I need you to grab a hold of this radiator and pull it this way while I hold the hood to pick it up out of there.
Okay.
And hopefully, it goes smooth.
Uh,
I'll step on the motor mount down here. My phone. Let my leg bend. All right.
Ready?
Yep. There we go. Oh, yes. Remember that movie when they cut the red wire, but they changed it the last second and cut the black wire?
Yes.
I think we should be holding this on.
Washer.
Oh. Oh, stuff's dropping everywhere.
What was that?
I don't know. Why is
I think it just shot out into the driveway.
I'm gonna take them apart. I thought I loosened it. I guess I didn't. Yeah, let's watch the paint. Watch the fresh paint, bro.
Is it heavy? You need help?
It's actually a lot heavier than I thought it was gonna be. I wonder if you have to take this off. Can you get it? Oh yeah, you have to take this off first. So if it would just go down, right?
Yeah, I know. This side pretty much does, but this side does not.
Well, maybe
However, that looks cracked, so that might be why.
maybe you just have to force it. to replace that.
Yeah.
Alright. That should. Freaking bolts are a lot of shit.
Putting it on that side.
I'm gonna take this out to the grass. Well, this bolt, I'm gonna try metric tools, I guess, because it's smaller than a 7/16, but it's bigger than a 3/8.
Okay, what size do you want me to go look for?
Oh God, I don't know.
I'll just grab some.
These down here are Phillips head. Oh, God. Hopefully they're not stuck. Wiggle it back and forth and pull that way. Alright, this one's the only one left. There we go. Alright, you got it. Don't hurt me. Well, that was a pretty good morning. Get this thing disassembled. Well, good luck moving the seat. Gotta love this. You can't make this stuff up. You can't get the motor mount bolt out without taking the alternator off. It's always something.
Push, pull back.
Pull what back?
This.
You can't, you're not over the motor mount yet, but the jack's not going up here.
Oh, all right.
The jack keeps falling down. There. You gotta get past the motor mounts before you can go forward. Alright.
All right. More.
Nope, we're good. Oh, hang on. The transmission cooler is still freaking hooked. Gotta get close. These lines are stuck on everything. Alright, pull back. Slowly.
Yep.
Alright. You're gonna have to go up.
All right.
It's crazy that you've got this little 68 Mustang steering box that rotates this rod, that pushes this bar, that pushes this rod, that pushes on the spindle, that pushes this bar to turn that wheel over there. It's crazy. Check out that steering angle. So there's one full turn. You don't even get another full turn. I wasn't kidding. So let's go back to center. Center. 1 3/4. That's all the turning radius this car had. I don't know how Frank drove this thing. Man, I was so excited. I got home last night at 2 in the morning from a long day at work, and my son had stripped the entire front suspension and steering off the chassis.
And those bolts, man, God, how long have they been in this freaking car? I was struggling getting the stupid bolts out.
Has it all squared up and leveled, which is awesome. However, we forgot to mark axle centerline. Not that big a deal though. Front suspension's right out there complete. We'll roll it back in here, put the carriage pins back in it, get our axle centerline. I'll make a little tick mark in the frame with a cutoff wheel so it can't be lost while we grind and clean the whole area for welding in the new front cross member. Just a tiny setback. Okay, so to me, the most important thing is looks. So I've got the fender sitting here. I've got the leaf spring just sitting there. We're gonna try to see what looks the best. Like, because we're adding rack and pinion steering and we gotta build a link anyway, we can move the front suspension a couple inches either way to get that good look we're looking for. And really, the longer the wheelbase, the better they ride. So to me, it looked like the wheelbase was off just a tiny bit, but again, leaf springs, you never really know what's happening as things flex and move, especially with these almost 100-year-old rear shackles on these things. So we want to get a good visual on where this tire fits the arc of this fender, because we want this thing low. You know, we've got full adjustability now with the Fat Man front suspension, so we're gonna mark axle centerline where we think it's gonna look the best. We'll take all this back off and we'll get that center section mocked up into position. Yep, I can already see the brake lines. Brake line brackets have to go. Tiny little issue, not the end of the world. So if you look over here, we are trying to mock up the cross member where it goes. However, the brake line brackets are gonna have to go, no big deal. Some of these rivets are gonna have to go, not that big a deal. I sent Fat Man the measurements for frame thickness and height at 3 inches at axle center line and 3 inches of the original front suspension measurements. We will have to grind and cut their part to fit, which is way better than it being too big, right? So we erred on the side of caution. So this is going together really well. The only issue I've run into so far with the entire install, other than having to trim the main cradle, is the lower shock washer is too big to fit through the shock horn. So I'll have to trim that down just a little bit to get the shock in. Everything else went in really well. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a couple tacks on it just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall while I mock up the fender and the wheel to make sure we're where we want to be. Once we know that place, then we'll X measure, make sure it's aligned with the rear end, and then we'll get it burn in final. We've got the suspension completely compressed as far as it goes. We still have full articulation, no binding, no popping. So then, let's go all the way down. That's full extension. Same deal here. And what's ride height look like? So half of our shock travel is about there. What do you think? I think we're gonna have to get a shorter shock. But we'll figure out shocks and springs at the very end with full weight in the car. Let's see what ride height looks like from this angle, which you're probably going to want the lower arm about straight for that rack and pinion angle and not to have any bump steer, which is about there. Maybe a little more, about there. So you can see we still have over an inch of travel, which means we probably have about 3 inches of travel out here at the tire. But again, shocks and springs very easy to deal with once everything's welded in and the car is full weight. Well, lots of progress today on the Willys. Pretty much got everything mocked up, so that's a big step towards getting this car back on the road. I think I'm gonna go find some dinner. It's so cold. Pretty sure I moved to the south to get away from this cold. But it's fine. So now that the front suspension is completely mocked into place, I have one question. I gotta call Fat Man Fabrications because the angle of the frame on top is flat. That technology back then was flat, set the body on it flat. However, the lower angle is what changes to get the frame skinnier towards the front. I just want to make sure that this is supposed to be on an angle like that. I look at the C10's front end and see that its control arms are all tilted up forward. Maybe that's right. I just want to make sure before we go any further on the front end. So I'm going to call them on Monday. But I'm going to go ahead and get this 68 Mustang non-power steering box out of here. Hopefully we'll be able to take this apart right here and go directly to the rack from the column. That would be ideal, but we'll have to get the motor in place to see if we've got a straight shot or not, whether we have to weld a supporting bracket onto the frame rail on the inside to get there. Does say FOMOCO. I was told it's a 68 Mustang steering box. Maybe somebody needs that. All right, I've got most of the bracket ground off. It's gonna take a while. It was some pretty healthy metal. Ooh, pretty soon you won't even know that was there. Good news. We got a phone call back from Fat Man Fabrications that built this front end for us. We are right in the window. You want 5 to 8 degrees of upper control arm angle. That's your built-in anti-dive. We're pretty good where we're at. Now we've got to strip it all back down, clean all the metal, build us a couple little triangulated closeout panels to close this out to the old frame and get it burnt in. At this point, we're gonna step away from the Willys for a couple days. We've got a couple other customer cars to fit into the schedule. I only have help on certain days, so next time you see the Willys, we should be back on the ground. So thank you for watching the Family's Garage, and we'll see you on the next project.